All right, here for the midweek pod with Tom. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm feeling very sore. I was at the chiropractor this morning and they brutalized me somewhat. I'm trying to get things sorted. I don't know. It feels like a bit of kind of quack medical stuff, doesn't it, sometimes when they're like, yeah, we're going to fix you by smashing you in the back repeatedly.
Yeah, and I'm always fearful that they'll just slap me in half and just be like you're a little twig. They should know what they're doing, but you just never know.
One hopes. I don't know. There's various medieval-looking contraptions. One looks like a noose, which is supposed to stretch your upper back. And then I've got a foam thing I use at home, which is very tight and kind of bends your back the other way, the top. And they stick you on the table and they smash you repeatedly, and then kind of sort of lie on top of you and crack various things. It's kind of disturbing.
There's a lot of trust that goes into go into a chiropractor because you are completely in the hands of someone else and just hoping that they know what they're doing. I mean, they obviously have trained, so yeah, but still, a lot of trust.
Yeah, it is. But I don't know. The neurosurgery people, all they've offered so far is steroid injections. They're like, you can do that and you can talk to the surgeon, but I talked to some other people who've done various of the surgical procedures and they're just absolutely brutal. So I'm trying to avoid that. Anyway, fun. What a conversation. I suppose it's
sort your posture out, kids. I think that's the takeaway. When you're at school and when you get at school and you're slouching and you think it's cool, think of
it's not
poor old Ed when he's at the chiropractor 30 years on.
And stop looking at your phones because you're hunching over.
Yeah,
I worry about my kids, actually. They're constantly on devices, like hunched over. All right. I don't think United have got any players with back problems at the moment. We did have Rio for a long time, who was suffering with various stuff. Today, we're going to talk about transfers. So last few days of the transfer window. It actually closes relatively early this year. A couple of days anyway. And there's a few deals that are either done or mooted or likely to be done. And we'll talk about that. And then we've got Liverpool at the weekend, who have not been busy in the transfer market, save for Enrico Chiesa coming in. But already the pressure is piling up on Ten Hag, I'd say, after defeat last weekend.
Yeah, I kind of saw this coming, to be honest. Like, I think a lot of us did, and we've talked about our really tough fixture list to start the season, and it's, it's like we have to hit the ground running. We had a really poor pre-season with getting the signings in, but a little bit late, and obviously a lot of injuries and just disruption. Yeah, I'm a little bit kind of worried after what happened last week. I mean, we weren't miles off against Brighton. If obviously Bruno had played a nicer pass into Xerxes, then Xerxes could have just tapped it in, and we wouldn't have had this problem with Xerxes being on the line, Garnacho tapping it in from a bad angle. It's just a bad pass from Bruno, and therefore we would have probably won that game 2-1. Everyone would have been feeling nice. Now, all of a sudden, we've lost to Brighton again. The pressure's on Ten Hag a little bit, and we now go to Anfield, where Liverpool haven't been particularly great, but they've won 2 out of 2 with their new manager, and they're playing at home, and the atmosphere is going to be raucous. And I know a few Liverpool fans, and they're already getting a bit carried away with Slot, and it's like I almost can only see this going one way, just because of the disruption that we had in pre-season is kind of coming home to roost. Like what we spoke about, we have a tough start to the season, and pre-season wasn't perfect at all. Arrivals came in a little bit late. We had injuries. There was a lot of disruption, and now, we could conceivably be 2 losses from 3 come Sunday. But we'll get to Liverpool obviously a bit later.
Yeah, I didn't follow Liverpool's pre-season at all, so I don't really know where they are in terms of disruption. I mean, a lot of the bigger teams will have had a lot of players out at Euros and Copa America, and and so on. And so arrivals coming in late. It's kind of what Ten Hag was getting at in very poor English. It sounded like he was making excuses already, didn't it? Whereas I think he was trying to say there's a lot of disruption to pre-season and a few defeats and players coming back late and not quite fit, but so on and so on and so on. And I guess minor details played into the Brighton defeat. Overall, though, my impression was United just didn't play badly in the key parts of the game, right? Didn't build up well, booted it long a lot, and had the same defensive problems where the high press, which wasn't as functioning, I think, on second sort of viewing and thoughts as perhaps it could have been, and really Mason Mount just makes a big difference there. And then a big hole in midfield. Still, again, and nothing actually seems to have changed. Although, maybe integrating some of these new players will make a difference. Talking of new players. Yes.
Segue alert.
Talking to the new players, so we are very close to Manuel Ugarte being announced. It seems like he's in Manchester, completed the physical, all the documents are signed or about to be signed as we're recording, and United just have to do the video and the social post or whatever it is they're working on right now, and he will be a United player. He should be registered in time for the weekend's game. So that one's done. What else are they?
Yeah, I know you're not massively keen on Ugarte, and it's hard to get too excited about a player who's gone to PSG and pretty much failed for various reasons, obviously. But even just parachuting him into the second half on Sundays, I think going to be a little bit of a lift, because he's that kind of character who will relish those types of games, and his personality, I think, will be something that we could get excited about, because he's going to be a battler, he's going to be a destroyer, he's going to be a winner, and I'm quite excited about this signing in some ways. But I think also my fear is that it kind of speaks to potentially on a lack of ambition that we have, really, if we're buying such a player who is essentially a destroyer and little else, who's just going to kind of play little passes, which is fine, but it kind of speaks to the path that we want to take as a football team, and the system that we want to integrate, which again is fine short term wise, but if this is kind of part of the big project, and we're going to be signing destroyers who don't do much else but destroy, and I think it will actually fit into this team perfectly. And you speak about having a massive gap in midfield like we did against Brighton. He, with his pace, is just defensive nous, should stop those gaps immediately, and is exactly kind of what we want in that respect. He's kind of on the ball at what little he gives us. He's not an Owen Hargreaves, where Hargreaves was, in my opinion, like ace on the ball, and he had all the ball winning attributes as well. He's kind of Owen Hargreaves without the ability on the ball almost. But he's not horrendous on the ball, but he's not just elite.
He's very sensible with his passing, completes a huge amount of passes, but they do tend to not be very progressive. There's an interesting report that said Ten Hag was initially against this transfer and wanted to keep Scott McTominay, and those above him were kind of pushing it, which is kind of interesting narrative, since this feels like the exact kind of player that Ten Hag would want in midfield. Most of United's build-up is down in wide areas. Also makes United kind of easy to defend against, because we're one-dimensional. In fact, it's very left-skewed. Look at the pass map against Brighton, just for very clear evidence against that. But if you're only building up in wide areas, the opposition know that, and if you're going direct all the time, which United do, opposition know that as well, right? There's no, you're not baiting the press if you're going to boot it long. By one of the world's best passing goalkeepers, who by the way completed a ton of passes against Brighton.
And
like
his ability to pass over the top of the defense is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's some merit to that. I just think they're not going to be baited when they know United are basically going to boot it long, right? So there are systemic problems that Ugarte can't fix. Now, what does he give us? He gives us like great ground coverage. He wins a lot of duels, and he uses the ball and recycles it sensibly. Yeah. What it also does is says, well, Casemiro doesn't have to play anywhere near as many games. And if he does, perhaps he's actually cover for Menu rather than covering the defensive areas, because he just doesn't seem to do that defensive work. I mean, I really noticed against Brighton how much people were running past him. And of course, he was significantly at fault for the winning goal by just vacating his zone and not bothering to go back in the second or third phase of Brighton's possession there. So that's what he gives us. I'm not excited because I think he's kind of a one-dimensional player, and we will end up looking for a better player down the line. But fills something of a hole in the squad. You're trying to get a balanced squad and moves towards that.
And he's similar, I think, in a lot of attributes to Amrabat, but just much better at everything. Like,
well, I'd say Amrabat's probably a better passer, but I'm not sure we even saw that really. Because he played so little. Yeah.
So we saw a lot of like short passes, and to be fair, like especially in some games, he gave those short passes away and let the opposition in. But he is, Amrabat has the ability to play those long diagonals, which he didn't really show at United. But I think Ugarte will, again, like you say, cover the ground. Like you look at his like ball recoveries, his interceptions, his dual percentage wins and stuff. They're off the chart. Like they're one of the best in Europe. I think they are the best in Europe by quite a distance as well. So in terms of that, we're getting absolute elite just on the ball. So like, I mean, if you're an Everton or something, it'd be an absolutely ridiculously good signing. But we are Man United. It's important to remember that sometimes.
And the finance is 42 and a bit million, just depending on the FX, and another 7 or 8 in add-on. So it's 50 plus 10 in euros, which is the fee apparently that United wanted to pay and got Paris Saint-Germain down to that. And if you balance it out with Scott McTominay leaving, who we can talk about as well, and Hannibal leaving, then the finance is like work for United. And this, I think, overall, in terms of the strategy, we can pick holes in each individual player that's come in, and there's some risk with many of them, all of them probably. But as an overall strategy, you seem to be able to do more deals, right? This is 5 main players for the first team, and a lot going out, either on, I think, 16, if you count all some of the younger players who've left as well, or free transfers out and sales and so on. So they're managing to do a lot of business, which means that I think it was Matt Hargreaves and Jason Wilcox in Paris to sort out cross the T's and dot the I's on the Ugarte transfer, and Dan Ashworth was sorting out the Scott McTominay deal. They can do more than one deal at one time, which was just never the case under the previous regime.
And it's good. Like, I mean, McTominay, that felt like we were really, really struggling to get rid of him. I guess because of us wanting a decent fee and getting rid of his wages and finding a team which he fits into, because as we spoke about on the daily, like his role is unclear, it's undefined. Like it's difficult to kind of wonder where he fits in. And thankfully, Conte has come in and been like the Mourinho of old, and just going for these players who are Premier League players. And like with Lukaku, just seems like a very odd signing to get rid of Osimhen and bring in Lukaku. And then with Scott McTominay as well, I don't really know how he fits into Napoli's team, but thankfully they've come in for him. And as we spoke again, as I spoke about on the daily, like it is going to be kind of sad to see him leave, but also it's really almost nice to see him go as well. Like, not to be harsh or anything. It's just quite. I mean,
I agree. He's not quite good enough, and but he's been one of our own, and I don't think we could fault his commitment at any point. And so that is sad, and he provided a lot of goals last season in many in emergency situations. My overall feeling is, one, yes, he's not good enough for a starting place at Manchester United, but he's not really good enough for Manchester United who are challenging. Now, there are plenty of players under Ferguson, when United were the top team, who kind of fit this Scott McTominay mould. They were happy in the squad. They played important roles at times. They had specific roles to play. Ferguson planned out teams well in advance and managed their minutes and so on. And maybe he could have played that role, but Erik's not that keen on him, or the people above Erik saw this as a good financial deal. Maybe there's a bit of both there. And Scott himself is 26, 27 now, no longer a kid, and he needs to be in a team every week. And if that's Antonio Conte and Napoli, great for him. Yeah.
I think as well, like, people compare, obviously, because of the Scottish link as well. Like, people have compared him a lot to Darren Fletcher as a squad player at United. But I feel like Darren Fletcher had a very clearly defined role, and he knew how to play in centre midfield. And when you played Darren Fletcher in midfield, there weren't any holes in midfield because he was tactically disciplined. He was a great ball winner. He used the ball really smartly. Whereas McTominay, when you play him, because of the position he plays, centre midfield, and he doesn't have the discipline, there's always holes when he plays. Therefore, if you brought in Fletcher for Carrick or Hargreaves, it would be a downgrade, of course, or Roy Keane, I guess, when he first came in, but you would still get competency. And same with like O'Shea or Phil Neville, like these types of players, Wes Brown, the kind of fringe players who were like, wouldn't 100% kind of start in the best team, but they would, when they came in, they would do a job. They were all competent. They all like didn't leave gaps, didn't leave holes. Whereas McTominay, when he plays, he is good and fine, and he's a good squad player to have around the team. But every time he plays, it's not just a downgrade in terms of quality; it's a downgrade in terms of there are massive gaps in the midfield when this guy plays, which is therefore you almost can't play him. Like you can because you have to, and he does provide stuff. He has a great mentality. I love this character. I love this mentality. Like just exactly what you want from a Man United player all the time. 110%, like nasty in the right ways. Absolutely loved like scoring goals. He loved the emotion you saw from him when he scored a goal. But yeah, limited and ill-disciplined.
Yeah, tactically ill-disciplined.
Not Hannibal ill-disciplined.
Yeah. Well, look, maybe new lease of life for him. Hope it works out at Napoli. Andy Mitten was saying on the Talk of the Devils podcast that Smalling had sort of been freed from all the pressure when he moved to Roma, and maybe that's true of Scott McTominay. And although Napoli fans are pretty obsessive, I don't know whether he's going to get less intensity from the supporters there, but maybe not the kind of global focus. It'll be see. We'll see. We'll follow his progress this season and see what happens to him. All right. One other player that there is an Italy connection is Jadon Sancho, with Juventus apparently negotiating with United. This seems to have been, generally complicated because the PSR cost for United is just massive, right? He's on these huge wages, and obviously it's a massive fee. And so it's like a £30 million a year hit on PSR for United. It's like 8% of our budget. It's absolutely mental for a player who's spent a good, year on the sidelines for some various reasons, either not in a good place, not sure what it was exactly, or falling out with coach, and then on loan away. So, it's been a disaster for United and trying to correct it. And it looks like the most likely deal is a loan to Juventus with some kind of obligation to buy next season. When Sancho will be into the final year of his contract, there's an option for one more. But it seems like the best option at the moment. There's been we can talk about it all in the round, right? There's been this potential swap deal with Raheem Sterling mooted, which seems unlikely. But yeah.
It really does seem unlikely, but like I think it was Ornstein or someone from the Athletic said it is actually like there is talk of it. Like it's not like completely. It's not like I don't know from caught offside or something, or like it's not from one of those stupid websites where they just make up transfer rumors for the sake of it, which is mad because I feel like Sancho. Why do Chelsea need another attacking midfielder / winger? And why do United want Raheem Sterling? Has anyone ever played for Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and United in their career? And that would be just mad.
I don't know. I mean, there's obviously been a few City United things, and Chelsea United, and a few, not loads, of Liverpool United. But yeah, City, Liverpool, and United. Don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It might be a first,
but. I know a lot of people probably listening to this absolutely hate Raheem Sterling or think he's shit. I've never been a true hater of his, despite obviously the teams that he's played for. I think he has a lot of qualities. His end product isn't always great. His ability to actually kick the ball, which usually like is a prerequisite for a footballer, isn't particularly great. We've seen it from his penalties. We've seen it from his free kicks. He can't actually kick the ball that well, but he can run with it quite well. And he gets into nice positions. He's really intelligent. He's really smart. But I think what we've seen, it's difficult to judge a player from playing it for Chelsea because they've been absolute basket case. But he's a player who's relied on his explosive pace for so long. And now he's getting to 28, 29, and he feels like he's losing it. And he's becoming like latter day Aaron Lennon, I think. And Aaron
Lennon, man, wow.
And Aaron Lennon was never the funnest player. Aaron Lennon had his pace and
latter day Aaron Lennon. Yeah, I mean, Sterling has succeeded on the basis of his sort of intelligence around the box, getting into the right areas, scoring goals, creating a lot of assists in his time at City. I mean, he's evolved over time from being a pure winger to being a more of an all-round forward or an inside forward. Apparently not what Maresca wants, and he's prepared to just like bin him off, which seems odd. I mean, his numbers from last season in an extraordinarily bad Chelsea side, which only improved sort of right at the end of the season, were very good. I mean, much better than both Marcus Rashford's and Alejandro Garnacho on any metrics you want to look at in forward areas. My concern is kind of twofold, really. One is the net, it would be no PSR benefit. Basically, he's on massive wages. And if you look, he's got an extra year on his contract, but a lower fee compared to Sancho. So the PSR cost is about the same. There has to be a transfer fee here. Otherwise, there's an impairment cost. And so doing some kind of swap, I don't know how in a PSR world, it doesn't seem to work for me in that same kind of way. You have to, I think this is why, with a lot of them you've seen, which are basically swaps, they've been done as a separate deal, quote unquote. Right. So that's one. The finances are very difficult. And given he's 5 years older than Jadon Sancho, you'd want the balance to be in United's favour. And then two, he's played a lot of minutes. So this is not an original thought, of course. I think a few people have talked about this. He's played the same kind of minutes as your average 35-year-old. And I think evidence shows pretty strongly now that it is not your age, but the amount of time you spent on the pitch that really factors into at what point you decline. And I think it'd be fair to say most Chelsea fans would say that he started to decline. So we'd be buying... Yeah, go ahead. So
I think even from the start of last season, at the start of last season, he came in really sharp, looking reasonably quick. And then almost throughout the season, he just tailed off. Maybe that's it. He can do it if he's playing maybe once every 2 weeks kind of thing. Not like Ledley King, but as in just be able to put those burners on in the same way he used to be able to when he was young, because he did come through. He was super young when he was at Liverpool. He was obviously part of that storing Suarez and Sterling from free, which was so good under Brendan Rodgers after that 1 year. And it's kind of mad to think that he's not. I don't think he's even 30 yet.
He'll be 30 this season.
But like you say, it's how many minutes and how many hours you put in, and also as a player who is so explosive, is so pacey, and is so reliant on that. Obviously, he's reliant on his intelligence as well, but it's the combination which makes him so deadly and so difficult to defend against. It's like if we sign him, we might get a good year out of him, and that's it.
It feels like Sanchez deal, which I don't think any side really got the benefit of from Mkhitaryan and Sanchez, but particularly United with the scale of Sanchez's wages caused a real problem. Anyway, look, we spent the whole summer signing younger players. Mazraoui at 26 is the oldest of all the players we've signed. And we've been trying to restructure the wage. I say we, like not you and me. We're not doing the negotiating, but United's new management team have been trying to restructure the wage budget. They've created a lot of headroom with letting players on large wages go for various reasons. I mean, particularly Varane and Martial helped there. Just tried to restructure the age profile, and so this one doesn't seem to fit. I think for United, the best bet is Jadon Sancho goes to Juve, and they managed to do that deal. If it is Chelsea, it's not Sterling I'd be looking at. I think there's 20-something players in the Chelsea squad that they want to get rid of that could be a make weight, and some of the younger players like Chukwuemeka or I don't know if Ben Chilwell was the right one, because you'd be signing him on a long-term contract when really probably United just need a loan again.
Yeah.
So probably not the one, but who knows? I think Juve seems the best bet, and I suspect, like, if we think that probably United's management team think that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We didn't talk about Hannibal. I mean, I did Daily yesterday talking about him. Just didn't make it at United, basically. We love the fact that he booted Scousers. We'll always have that. Loved his spikiness, but, no, he really didn't like it. United fans did, though.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, he came in as a 16-year-old and he looked like he was going to be a brilliant number 10. And he went to Birmingham, played 40 odd games for Birmingham, and they converted him to an 8 who liked to kick people. And I don't know if that's the right conversion for him. But he feels like he got a fair shake. He got a fair few games at United. I mean, not loads, but he got a fair few. And if it's not going to work out, they've done another one of these deals where it's low fee plus bonus plus sell-on clause.
Yeah, like, he's got tons of ability. Like, you think back to the free kick he scored for Birmingham, where he just whipped it around whipped in at the near post. And I thought when he was coming through the reserves, like, because he has this amazing combination of physicality, work rate, with also technical ability, I thought I was so excited about him. His energy is crazy. But it's almost like he doesn't know how to harness that energy in the right way, really. And I think his last chance saloon was to go to Sevilla, perform over there, and then go, I'm a United player type of thing. But obviously he went there and it was an absolute disaster. A bit like Antonio Martial's loan to the same club.
Yeah.
Which was an absolute disaster. And it's like, we can't really put any trust in Newts because of your previous games for United have been fine, but obviously it was great when he was kicking Scousers, but he is ill-disciplined in his aggressiveness, and also in his just ability to stand in the right place, which is not great if you're a number 8, even a number 10. And we can't obviously just indulge a player like that for Man United. He's not that good. He's not Ravel Morrison, and we didn't even indulge him. Therefore, it kind of feels like there's so many, like, on paper, like, his attributes look fantastic. It just doesn't kind of fit and doesn't look good when it kind of has been on the pitch. But he's young. Hopefully the move for him will work out well, and he'll potentially become a Premier League player. I just think from what we've seen from him, and it has been limited, there's just nowhere near been enough for what for what you need to become a United player.
Give me 1 second, sorry. I've got it on Do Not Disturb, so it will automatically. Yeah, I mean, I think if he'd gone to Sevilla and it worked out, the transfer fee might have been doubled. I mean, they had a 20 million euro option in that loan and they didn't take it up because he got to training, booted the main striker and got into a fight about it. So he played 6 times.
That is so Hannibal. That is so Hannibal.
It really is incredible. But yeah, it feels like he's a much better player than £5 million to a championship club. And hopefully he goes to prove it. I mean, this is Burnley, who last summer spent 20 million on James Trafford, who not played a single minute for Manchester City. So we do not have the halo effect with younger players. So we're doing all these deals where it's fairly low fee and a large sell on, hoping that some of them will come good. And hopefully, we get to the position where we're more successful. Some of these younger players are getting integrated, and the ones that don't quite make it are going for big fees in the way that City especially and Chelsea partly have managed to do, because we are hundreds of millions of pounds behind those two in terms of our selling over the last 5 years or so, which is really significant. And this is not a bad deal for United, but had he been more successful, it would have been a bigger deal, obviously. I mean, just to state the obvious. But so it's like an overall strategy this summer, though, isn't it? Sell player, put a massive sell-on clause in there.
Yeah, that's the theme, isn't it?
Yeah, Greenwood, Hannibal, Cambuala,
Palestri, I think.
Palestri, all the same. Yeah, 45, 50% sell-on clause. With Greenwood, it's 50% of whatever fee, not of profit. So if I think the assumption is he's going to do really well. He has been. He started the season really well.
Yeah,
he's a better player than the French league. Maybe, who knows? All right. Is that it for transfers? I mean, there's also. I mean, I think United would have liked to get rid of Casemiro. That's not going to happen this summer, unless the Saudi league comes in really late, because their transfer window closes in October this year. That's going to cause some chaos.
Yeah, it might happen, because obviously we have Ugarte now, and like that should fill that gap. So potential. We signed Toney. Obviously, it's a
million youth player. Yeah, he'll play in the reserves this season. Another sort of defensive midfielder. Some of the youth scouty type people on Twitter really love him. I can tell you. You seen him?
I actually have seen a little bit, because Marley were really, really good in the under-17 World Cup. I wasn't watching for him. I was watching for the striker who scored a lot of goals in that World Cup. And he was good. I don't think he was the outstanding player on that team. It was that striker. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I don't even know why I said that, because it was so little I was adding. I just wanted to go. I watch Marley on the 17s. That was basically it. I wanted to get the ego stroked by my own self.
Tom confessing to watching young boys scantily clad.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm like Fabrizio Romano, who tweets about 16-year-olds all day
long. Yeah, very odd character, Fabrizio. All right, won't get into that one. I had a rant about him last time. So it's funny, whenever I mention something like this, it's just like kind of curiosity about how media football coverage works these days. It's the blend between what is a journalist and what is a social media account trying to farm engagement. Like, it's like Fabrizio started out as a journalist, now is basically not. Does newsletters and podcasts and his Twitter following, and I think he has a paid Substack or one of those things. I can't remember exactly what. And, like him and Ornstein kind of started the same and diverged. And then you've got like pure social accounts, really good ones like the Stretford Paddock guys, who I think do lots of great content. Not all of it I love, but I think it's generally really good. some smart people there, and then you've got Goldbridge. I don't know whether you saw it, Matt Slater.
I was literally about to say, when you were talking about all those, I was going to bring up Goldbridge, and you brought up Goldbridge first. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, Goldbridge is a fascination. Like, if I mention him, I get a bunch of people will be going, because obviously he has a very big following. You're jealous. I'm like, no, it's not that.
I am a little bit jealous. I will put my hand up and say, after seeing his accounts, I am jealous of the £5 million he made last year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's some to be paid out to various employees of that particular organization. But yes, I mean, very big following translates into lots of money. I once read an article. I think it was in the New York Times, and it was about one of these streamers on YouTube who had made $5 million in 1 year just doing Minecraft videos. And I only knew about her because my kids follow what she does, and she does this kind of Minnie Mouse voice, and it was really annoying to me. And I had to send the kids to another room because I just didn't want to listen to it. But there's a lot of money to be made, because you get a share of advertising revenue once you get about 4,000 hours, which reminds me, go over to our YouTube page. We are not at 4,000 hours, so we are giving this content to you for free, folks. But if you go and watch on YouTube, maybe one day we'll be Goldbridge.
But can you believe that Goldbridge is 45 years old?
Yes.
And his real name was printed somewhere as well.
Brent de Cesare. It was in that article that made
Nottingham Forest fan. 45 years. 45 years old. I can't believe that.
You know what? And I've said this to people I've had a conversation with about, because no one would be surprised. My politics are, reasonably left wing. I've spent my life being like that, and I will have conversations with and argue in very good faith, and disagree agreeably with people of different political persuasions. And it's all okay. And I've had conversations about people who made lots of money, and I think it's all right. I don't mind people making money. I do object a little bit to Goldbridge because he's not even a fucking United fan. Yeah. It's a fraud, and the disingenuousness of it is what annoys me, not the fact that he's made loads of money. But
it's just the biggest grifts.
It is a grift. It feels like a grift.
Football. It is. Yeah. And it's also harmful as well. We've talked about the ways it is harmful as well, and I think that's what also does just leave a massively bad taste in the mouth when you see he has £5 million from this as well. Obviously, it's entertainment, but I guess it's just the way of the world.
All right, we're in the middle of a transfer discussion. So Casemiro, unlikely to leave unless the Saudi Pro League. Duncan Castles on his podcast said that the strategy of the Saudi Pro League is to leave it right until the last minute and try and squeeze European clubs to get better deals. We'll see. I mean, there's still that that merry-go-round with Victor Osimhen, who looks like he's definitely leaving Napoli, and maybe Chelsea, maybe Saudi, and Ivan Toney, too, who maybe Chelsea, maybe Saudi, maybe United. There have been links. I would 100% take him. I don't know how it works. If the fee was reasonable and his wages weren't too mental, it would mean United a bit overstocked in forward areas. But I don't know. Feels like an experienced forward who guarantees you some goals would be very useful.
Yeah, and not to be cliche, but knows the Premier League and has done it week in, week out, and for a difficult club to do it at. And I think I love his mentality. I love the presence that he'd bring to the team. He is a bit slow, but I also think Xerxes not particularly quick either. And he's not a particularly great turner, and I think that therefore would lead me to think that kind of would fit in with Ten Hag. What would Ten Hag want from a striker to be almost like that big target man and have the pace in and around him. And I think he would work perfectly in that respect. It's just, as we saw last season with Højlund, we didn't cross the ball. We didn't put the ball into the box for Højlund to have chances to score. Therefore, will we just be negating most of Ivan Toney's kind of best qualities by just cutting inside and shooting every time our wingers get the ball? That's obviously what Anthony does all the time. That's what Rashford likes to do as well, especially if Luke Shaw's not kind of overlapping. We're not going to get that cross in because Dallow's going to want to come inside, or Mazraoui if he's playing at left back as well. Garnacho comes inside and shoots. Obviously, he can go out on his right foot, which is a benefit of him playing on the right. But yeah, we're not across the side. We maybe need to be that if we want Toney to succeed it. And also, it kind of speaks, if we're signing Ivan Toney this late in the window, is that a bit of a panic buy? Is he really going to fit into what we're supposed to be building here? Therefore, it looks a bit like round peg in a square hole. Though, like you say, he is a great player and it would be a good signing, I think.
Potentially all that is true, for sure, and the age profile and the fact that he's never really made any money, so he's after the biggest payday possible, which I don't blame him for at all. He's still on the same contract he was on when he signed for Brentford in the Championship. Tyrell Malacia
as well. So
Tyrell Malacia made more last year playing 0 games for United than Ivan Toney has made in his entire career.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's absolutely mental. So he's a much better player than he's, obviously made money and short career, right? And he may well have betting debts. Yes. So, I don't know. I mean, the thing, would he fit in Ten Hag style of play? Maybe not, but neither does Rasmus Højlund. And we bought him. Højlund wants the ball into space.
Yeah.
And United are not playing like that. And you can see that by the amount of touches he gets. It's very, very, very few.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Ten Hag is going to persist with this 4-2-4 system that we've got at the moment, which doesn't create any chances and is not very good out of possession. I don't know. Who knows? And who knows if Ten Hag will even survive?
Well, that's very true as well.
Maybe we'll get Ruud van Nistelrooy's interim in November or December.
It does feel like he was almost brought in for that role. I think what it does do, if we do have 3 strikers, all 3 strikers are very different. Like I said, Xerxes not particularly quick, but he's a completely different player to Toney. Like I think Xerxes said himself, he's a 9.5 who kind of likes to come in and link play. He's got really soft feet. You've got Højlund, obviously, like you say, he likes to run in behind and likes the ball into space. And then you have Toney, who's almost like an old-fashioned target man, who will crosses into the box and stuff. It's almost like Italy in the World Cup 2006, where they took 5 or 6 strikers who were all completely different, or a little bit like United when we had in '99, where we had 4 quality strikers who were all completely different. But then does that work at club level these days? I'm not particularly sure.
I mean, if we are going to play 2 forward players, then there's room for a third striker. If we're not, then maybe they don't get many minutes. I think that's it for the transfer window. I suspect United would have liked to have gotten rid of Victor Lindelof too, who will be 5th or 6th choice central defender. He managed to get himself injured in time to keep stealing a living.
Phil Jones, he's done it.
Phil Jones strategy, perfect. I mean, to be fair to Victor, he's not spent a lot of time injured. I mean, they all have, so no more than anyone else. But it is kind of comical that it's happened so late. So we'll see whether anything happens on that front. Okay, before we go, United play Liverpool at Old Trafford on Sunday, and it's always a big one. I guess there's extra intrigue with pressure on Ten Hag following from last season's absolute disaster and defeat to Brighton. And then Liverpool under Arne Slot, who, I don't know what your impression is. My impression is they're trying to transition to a slightly different style of play with all the same players, basically.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if that's a recipe for a good season or not, although they've won their opening 2 games.
Yeah, it didn't work in the first game. They changed to be quite Klopp-esque in the second half after a pretty dull and poor first half against Ipswich. And then the second half, they looked a lot better, kind of playing their old style of football. I just don't think this is going to work for Liverpool, to be honest. I think almost anyone who was going to follow Klopp, unless they had a massive personality, was going to really struggle. And Slot doesn't have that personality. So I think the whole way that Liverpool have been created and the way that everyone has fallen in love who is a Liverpool fan with Liverpool in recent times is all to do with Klopp. And therefore, when he is not like Klopp, and he's not going to be winning the same way as Klopp, like he's not going to have that personality, he's not going to have that energy, he's not going to have that madness, which especially like last season, Liverpool had loads of madness. And I thought that was going to guide them to the title at one point, because it just felt like they're playing badly every single week and they keep winning. But that's what I guess you fall in love with, like as a Liverpool fan. This is going to be so much more stale, so much more boring, not just from the style of football that we've kind of just spoken about there. Like there's going to be a lot more methodic. It's going to be Arteta City-esque in its kind of slow build-up play, passing compared to the whatever he used to call it. What was it? Heavy metal. That Klopp used to talk about. And also like the personality. The bloke isn't bringing me first personality, and he has that very distinctive Dutchness about him, that very straight talking way, which again, I just don't think is going to work with him. They might have started okay, but we started okay on the previous managers as well. We didn't start well under Ten Hag, but we started well. We started well under Mourinho. We started well under Van Gaal, and we started obviously amazingly under Oli. And I think I did see a little bit of their preseason. Well, I heard mostly about it, and they did have a really good preseason. But that's usually always the case when you have a new manager in, because all the players want to impress. The manager's taking it so much more seriously than they would do. They want to see performances. They want to see wins in preseason to get the confidence up. Blah 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 blah. And yeah, they started with 2 wins from 2, but this won't work for Liverpool. I'm almost certain of it. And hopefully we can put a dagger in things early doors by getting back to winning ways, which
I hope so. I mean, the thing that is worrying, I guess, like even if the system change causes problems, and they're a bit light in central midfield, I think they've got so many individuals that can cause problems.
Yeah.
Salah still knows how to find a net. So does Jota. Diaz is a great player. Gakpo is decent but scores goals. They've added Enrico Chiesa. It doesn't feel like they needed another one. Is he back up to Salah? I guess he likes to come off that right hand side with his left foot, doesn't he? So they've just got and we didn't even mention Darwin Núñez, who one person who is apparently familiar with this kind of thing on Twitter made a bit of a splash by saying Núñez is trying to get out. Who knows whether that's true or not? The more chaos in the Liverpool camp, the better.
Yes, please.
But just to round off my point, I mean, I think they've just got a lot of individuals that can hurt you, even if they're light in midfield. Some of their stars at the back, Van Dijk and Robertson in particular, are not as good as they once were, are aging a bit. So there's change there, and hopefully it doesn't work for them. I do worry about United setup though. Like even if they're light in midfield, we are always lighter, because that seems to be how we play. Yeah.
You also kind of wonder, like, obviously we have beaten Liverpool under Ten Hag when Sancho scored that hilarious goal and Van Dijk was standing there like a statue. But you kind of wonder what this slot team will look like under adversity. Will they have the same personality to kind of bounce back from adversity, going 1-0 down, 2-0 down, potentially at Old Trafford, with like the atmosphere kind of building on them, especially at this stage of Slot's time? Like, do they have that? Will they have that character that they had under Klopp? Which I think this is what I think is going to kind of become their make them unstuck a lot this season. Is I think their character will be fragile because I think Klopp was so important to them. That he was Liverpool, and he inspired and so much confidence and so much belief in all of his players. I just don't see, and I think that's just going to be a massive drop off for them this season. Therefore, I think when they do face adversity, which they haven't faced so far, and obviously it's only been 2 games, I think that's when they'll struggle. So if we score first, I actually think we'd win. If we don't, then maybe that good fortune, a little bit like when Oli took over from Mourinho, when we just kept winning. That belief can take you so far alone. Yeah. But yeah, it's when you face adversity. I wonder that's why.
Good times when we were winning under Ollie. People forget that. Second and third in the league. What we would give for that. I mean, there's no chance United finish second in the league. I'd be shocked if it was third, given the amount of improvement. I mean, you look at the data from last season, we should have finished 15th. United actually finished way higher than the data would suggest. And that is not talked about a lot, right? I think there's an assumption we can just move forward. But moving forward actually might not mean like top 4. So it's still a stretch. What is in our favour, to come back to Liverpool, is that, potentially things don't go well for Slot this season. Yeah, hopefully. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of imperfect teams chasing those likely 3rd and 4th, maybe 5th, depending on how English teams behave in Europe this season and so on. Or do in Europe this season. It's not just cards, it's performance. Yeah, and then the new style Champions League. So you got Villa, Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool, United. I think that's it. Like all chasing 3rd and 4th, maybe 5th. I imagine, and there's not a lot between all of these teams. Now we can argue United maybe, possibly, potentially should be better, but not really proven, is it? So, yeah. And I just think in terms of like feeling around the club and narrative and confidence, it will go south very quickly if United lose this game. Like there'll be a lot of bad feeling.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to call, isn't it? Because it was not a great performance against Brighton. There's not a lot of signals going, we're really starting this season on fire.
And we saw it when Bruno got... Gonna make sure. Bruno got booed when he came off. No, Bruno didn't get booed, but the decision to take Bruno off got booed.
No, it's a fucking bizarre decision.
But
you take off your best player for Scott McTominay. What was the thinking there? You're going to chase the game, but actually we were under pressure and not able to control the game at all at that point.
This speaks to the fragility of Ten Hag. Like we're 2 games in after. Well, the 2 competitive games before that was the FA Cup final. Everyone's singing his name. Everyone's wanting him to stay. 2 games later, a late winner against Fulham and a loss against Brighton, and he's already under pressure. The fans are booing him. Like this is what it is at United. Like he was very, very close to being sacked last season, and a really bad result on Sunday. Will be like, oh my god, like what is going to happen? And then the media gets on us really quickly. Our own fans get on us quickly as well because, I mean, for good reason. I think both of us. I definitely wanted Ten Hag out last season. I don't know if you did. I don't want to speak for you. And
he definitely didn't earn a 3rd season, I have to say. But I look, a lot of performances like the one against Brighton this season, and it's very early in the season, of course, and all the new players haven't been integrated, but a lot more performances like that. And I don't think Ten Hag survives this season. I mean, no one survived a 3rd season at United since Fergie left.
And I'm also not advocating for him to go after 2 or 3 games. I'm just saying that this is what is going to happen. Like, I want him to be given time, but like everyone listening to this show knows what happens when the pressure gets going. When United start losing, everyone starts getting on our backs because it's just fun to poke and laugh at United. Therefore, it's going to be difficult to survive once things start going badly.
He has no bank of credit, and that's why the pressure will ramp up very, very quickly. If United don't do well and United need a fast start to this season, those cup competitions, they're very they're ephemeral, aren't they? It's great when you win, but the sign of real progress is position in the league and how we do in Europe. And that has not been good. All right, we'll leave it there. God, come on, you Reds. Let's, for all of that, that's not meant to be negative. I want United to smash Liverpool on Sunday. I would like revenge for that 5-0. I'd like a really big win and for us to come out going, Ten Hag is a genius. How did he pull that off? We're very sorry for all the criticism. and Victor Lindelof, coming off your crutches to score a last-minute winner, or whatever. Like, clearly, I want United to do really well. I'm a bit dubious about it, honestly, but yeah, there we go.
It's just United though. Like, it's impossible to support United without having tremendous fear, to be honest. And it's also impossible to go into this game of all games, considering what's happened the last few years, to go in without tremendous fear. Like, we obviously are excited. We want to be as positive as we can, but we've also seen what's happened, and therefore we're reacting from previous traumas, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Great way to end it. This has been your NQAT therapy session. We'll be back after United's game against Liverpool at the weekend. Thank you very much for listening. You can catch us on socials. Thomas at Thomas Mortimer on Twitter. I'm NQAT Pod. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. Does anyone take part in any of those? I'm not sure. We're also on YouTube if you're not watching there. And we're now on Apple Podcast subscriptions, where you can get our Patreon backers content there as well. Same price, $5 a month. We do 2 extra shows. The extra show and the tactics show, which will be coming up today. We appreciate your support if you want to support us there. And if not, we are thankful for your support through listening. All right. Bye now.